So you're trying to decide which solution is best to record and edit your show. Is it Riverside or Descript? Well, let's put them to the test and find out. Hey, I'm Steven, and together with my wife, Veronica, we run PSS Creative Media, where we help people launch professional podcasts and build studios. And we've been using both Riverside and Descript for years now. But in this video, we decided to run a true back-to-back test. We recorded a mock remote podcast episode in both platforms, the same setup and the same conditions. Also, we imported the exact same client episode into each platform, so that way we can see not just how they record, but how they actually handle real creator files. So we're gonna go round by round, side-by-side comparisons, remote recording, recording quality, ease of use, editing and AI tools, repurposing power, and exports. So by the end of this video, you'll know which one really stands out as the true all-in-one solution and which one might fall short. Ready? Let's start the battle. And a quick note, this video is sponsored by Riverside, but that will not influence the results of this test. Ready? Let's go.
Riverside versus Descript.
Round one, remote recording experience. So we've got to start with remote recording because if your guest can't join you easily or stay connected, well, then nothing else matters. When it comes to video podcasting, especially when we're first getting started, we want to be able to connect with guests remotely. Obviously, Zoom is not an option for us. This is huge for our consulting clients, many of whom are not tech savvy. So Veronica and I have a lot of pressure to choose the right solution that our clients can use. And for you, the connection situation between Descript and Riverside, very similar. You're first taken to a green room as the host where you can check your camera and your microphone and make sure everything's plugged in properly. Then it's easy enough to find the link to share with your guest. Once your guest clicks the link, they're in and you're off to the races. So we started our first interview with the Riverside FM solution. Well, hey there, Veronica. Thank you for joining me on my show.
Hello.
Interviewing people has always been...
Well, it comes from curiosity.
And it was seamless, very easy to use, very intuitive, and we had a very fun recording experience. When you're done with your guest, you simply press stop, and then Riverside lets you know the files are uploaded, at which point you can go back to your Riverside dashboard, and Riverside's already at work telling you, hey, we've made some content for you out of this recording you've just made. But we're gonna get to that in a minute. Right now, we're just focusing on the remote recording experience. Now, after we were done with Riverside, we immediately hopped into the Descript experience, and we had troubles right from the beginning. The big problem was Veronica's audio was way out of sync to Veronica's video.
From my end, I look like I'm behind, like there's a delay.
I knew that in post-production, I could just slide that audio over.
Hi, Steven, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're my husband.
Am I? But it was time consuming, it was annoying, and I don't think a lot of beginner creators could figure this out on their own without some serious hair pullage. Once you are done remote recording in Descript, however, it does seamlessly pull your files right back into the Descript interface where you can get to editing right off the bat, transcribes your interviews for you. However, if you compare it to the Riverside experience, Riverside here is the obvious winner. Ding, 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 ding.
Riverside wins.
Knockout. It is what it is. All right, next up, round two, audio and video. This is what your audience sees and hears. Quality is very important. Now, a lot of your audio and video quality is the equipment that you're using and the space that you're using to record in. And we're looking at what does the audio and video quality look like from your remote recordings, and what would it look like if you were to record directly into the platform. So I didn't just record a mock episode with Veronica. I also got to work editing each mock podcast episode as well too, and pulled in some identical files from one of our clients, Ryan, into each platform so that we could do a test there. In Riverside, all of your files are stored and managed on their server, which means you don't even have to worry about file storage at all. When it's been a long time after you've used it, it goes into an archive and you can always unarchive it if you ever need to access old episodes. Riverside is running off of a browser, so it's giving you a preview of your video at a lower quality, but this will be a much higher quality when you export the edit. Now you'll notice in Riverside right off the bat, we've got the autofill side by side of our guests right there. Of course, we can click into it and kind of move things around if we wanted to. We can zoom in very easily. Try to maybe center our guest and our speaker in a way that makes them look like they're occupying the same space. And we can make those adjustments really quickly here in Riverside. Now in Descript, it's similar, only it hasn't auto-filled already. We see them side by side. Now, when it comes to the AI features, I'm not gonna unpack and explore all of them in this video. I'm just gonna unpack the ones that I find are the most useful for my editing purposes and the editing purposes of our clients, and I would say most creators. And those are by far the audio processing effect. And then two other big features we've got to look at here. And one is the multi-camera crisis. So let's take a look at the AI tools that both Descript and Riverside have for this. We'll start with Descript. Under the AI tools, we have looks good and we have automatic multicam. From automatic multicam, you can choose the style, the cutaways, the camera setup, and you can decide how frequent you want the cutaways. Now, while it's doing this over here, let's hop over to Riverside and do it over in Riverside. In Riverside, that same feature that's gonna give us the cool multicam edit right out of the box is under AI tools, and we can click on smart layouts right here and say apply, and it will already apply those smart layouts. It happens almost instantly, and as you play through it, you see it will clip to the active speaker, but it cuts away to the person who isn't speaking from time to time, and it also gives us a side-by-side at times that it thinks is really intelligent. I love this feature, and I think right out of the box, you can basically just come into the editor here in Riverside, trim out the beginning and the end of your episode, throw on a couple of these AI features, and you'll be done with your episode. It really is that easy. It's never been like this before. Now let's take a look at what Descript has done. Descript has also shown us here when it has cut away up in our transcript area, so we can see when it cuts away to the person. What it has done also in Descript now is created a bunch of different scenes, and this / here represents those scenes and when those scenes have been made. Now there wasn't really enough cutaways here for my liking, and definitely not enough side-by-sides. Now if I did want to change the side-by-side, I could come to this clip here, for example, and see if I can figure out how to change the side-by-side. It becomes hard to actually switch it to the side-by-side. In Riverside, we have these different scenes that have been created. Also, those scenes are indicated down in our timeline. If I didn't want it to be on Chuck, when I click on it, I see Chuck's name up here. I can just click Ryan instead. So perhaps it's a little more intuitive here in Riverside. You can quickly make that adjustment without having to go find a properties window. So this definitely scores some points, again, for some more intuitive editing functionality here. So here, when it comes to this multicam situation, both provide a really cool experience, although I do believe Riverside is more intuitive and it feels a little less choppy. It feels a little more natural the way you would edit it if you were actually making those cuts and doing the switches yourself.
Riverside wins.
The other big test when it comes to audio quality is the post-processing effects. Now, traditionally in editing, this would take an editor to apply these effects themselves: compression, EQ, de-essing, and noise reduction. Both platforms have this technology built into their AI audio processing features, and both are very impressive, but hey, you be the judge. Now, when we're talking about audio quality for your show, the first thing you want to do is be in a relatively sound-controlled room and use good audio equipment. There is, of course, one of my favorite expressions from my studio days: you can polish a turd, but it's still just a shiny piece of shit. But I love this example here of Ryan's episode with Chuck, because Chuck is wearing a headset, whereas Ryan has a classic podcast microphone. So this will really give us a good example of the sound. So the first thing I'm going to do is let you listen to the recording here without any processing, and then we'll put on the audio treatment of both platforms.
What are you hearing out there? Is there something going on with the size of this crop?
Yeah, it is a big shift. In fact, from the last.
Now, if we go ahead and turn studio sound on,
What are you hearing out there? Is there something going on with the size of this crop?
Yeah, it is a big shift.
basically that has saved the audio. It sounds great. Now let's have a listen to that same spot here in Riverside.
What are you hearing out there? Is there something going on with the size of this crop?
Yeah, it is a big shift. In fact,
Okay, and now let's go ahead and apply the magic audio.
What are you hearing out there? Is there something going on with the size of this crop?
yeah, it is a big shift. In fact, from the last, I would say.
It's a draw.
Very great, equally as impressive. Which one was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Whoo, that was tough. Now, before we jump into the next round, I haven't told you yet about Podcast Your Way, which is our brand new AI-powered podcast creator. It's an amazing training platform that adapts to you, helps you to launch a podcast on your terms, with your budget, with your specific goals in mind. It's quite amazing, and you could go to podcastyourway.com to try it out for free. And now finally, we've got to look at filler words, the bane of every podcaster's existence. Ums and uhs. So we're saying and way too much, and we got to cut those ums and uhs out because it increases our articulation and our perceived intelligence, and it really does make for a better experience for our listeners. Okay, now finally, I want to compare the filler word detection and the automatic features that both of these platforms have for treating filler words. Notice from the AI tools here, we have remove pauses, remove filler words. Find fluff is another really cool AI feature that Riverside and Descript both have. In Descript, under the AI tools, we have edit for clarity. That's basically find the fluff. Remove filler words. Remove retakes can be really great if you're reading a script, and shorten word gaps as well. So with Descript, when you say remove filler words, this is what happens. In the filler words window that pops up here, there's this cool new feature, avoid harsh cuts. And in the world of audio editing, you can cut out every single and your audience would never know the difference. But when it comes to video editing, when you start abruptly cutting out ums and uhs, you get a lot of jump cuts. The value, they say, of a podcast is that you're actually inside of a natural conversation between two speakers. And when there's too many jump cuts, they're suddenly made too aware of the fact that things are being edited, so it takes away from that authenticity. And this is where we will see some visible jump cuts.
Just run through, I wrote down 10 different crops here, just a comment or a minute on each crop. We won't start the timer on you if you want to go long.
So you can see it's a little jumpy, it's a little abrupt, and this is really the issue that I have here with the remove filler words feature, and it's not one that I would ever use on an episode that I'm editing, and it's not really going to save us any time because now we're going to have to come in here and kind of see if there's anything we can do to get rid of those things. So really this AI feature, at least as it is right now, isn't very useful, and we can't really give it any points. Riverside has been innovating on this tool in a way that is truly mind-blowing and solves this problem completely. And that is by using their auto mute feature. So instead of actually making a cut to the video, they just mute the ums and uhs, but leave the video intact so that our host and our co-host sound more intelligent, and it doesn't give us some kind of perceived artificial situation. And notice here in Riverside, rather than seeing the filler word and having it underlined, instead we get these little squiggly lines here. So from the AI tools, I can choose remove filler words, and you have a few different parameters here.
All right, Chuck, I thought, harvest time, I thought we could go over some of the bigger themes here that are on my mind, and then just run through. I wrote down 10 different crops here, just a comment or a minute on each crop. We won't start the timer on you.
This is truly incredible, and it's just mind-blowing to me how simple but effective this really is. Because when we say our mouth doesn't really move that much, so you don't really notice visually that the person's being muted right there. When it comes to removing filler words, which is a very important feature to have at our disposal, Riverside takes the cake. When it comes to the stability of the files that came from the remote recording, I did not notice any difference between either platform. It seems to me that Descript and Riverside are both getting really high quality video and audio recordings from a remote recording from either contender. I also did check that each of the files specifically from me were in fact in 4K to make sure that they both do record at 4K dimensions and quality. And they do. And how amazing is that? You can record 4K video quality remotely. So when it comes to audio and video quality,
It's a draw.
it was an even fight. Both figured out a way to give you really exceptional, easy as clicking a button, audio processing effects, as well as high quality video remotely. All right, round 3. You feeling exhausted? Bloody? Round 3, intuitiveness and ease of use. So here we're talking about two different things. How easy and intuitive are these platforms to use? And also how long will it take us to learn how to use these platforms? I tried my best to forget everything I've known and to approach it as if I was a brand new user. From the brand new user's perspective, the obvious winner for me,
Riverside wins.
the whole process is just much more intuitive as you start and go through it from point A to point B, especially if you're talking about connecting remotely and then turning that remote interview into a full podcast episode quickly. When it comes to learning, the platform really just kind of walks you through it, and the colors and the dark features of it, they're just intuitive, and it's obvious which button to press next. There are some advanced features that may take some finagling and some moving around to figure out. A bit of finagling. Here we're just talking about when you first open the platform. How long is it going to take you to use? How quickly are you going to be recording something? And then how long will it take you to learn the more advanced features of the program? So as far as intuitiveness, ding, 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 ding. Riverside's the obvious winner here. Another knockout for Descript.
All right, round 4, transcript and timeline editing.
So this one should be in the bag for Descript. As I mentioned earlier, they started as an editing program. And in fact, Descript was truly the brainchild of editing a podcast episode like you would a Word doc. They really flipped the whole editing industry on their back and made us all think of editing in a new way. But while they're the innovator of this initially, I'm left to wonder if their technology is still the most intuitive. Now, there are many other transcript editors that have popped up, and Riverside has innovated somewhat recently on their own transcript editor, and I have to say, I think I like it better than Descript's. So there are some primary differences, but the overall feeling is very similar. Not only do you get the transcript that you can edit, that's transcribed from your recordings. And you could just highlight and delete words like you would from a Google Doc using either platform. Riverside's transcript seems to be a little cleaner as it hides the filler words. You don't even see them. They're just little squiggly lines. And it puts a dot where there would be spaces. Their transcript also doesn't seem to be cluttered up or have all these indicators of where the scenes are and also little thumbnails of which camera was selected when you use the multicam. And in general, it just seems a little easier to click on the words that you want to click on and kind of highlight things. However, it's very comparable, and when it comes to the transcript editing, there really is not a clear winner here. Also, both platforms do allow you to edit along a timeline at the bottom in a very similar fashion. You can see the waveforms, which is a way that an old school guy like me likes to edit. If I can't see the waveforms, where am I? Hello? Whew, this has been a wild ride and a tough fight, but we've got to move on to round 5, and that is repurposing power. This is the power of long format content, and that's that one recording, one podcast episode has the potential to become many pieces of content that you can distribute all over the place. So is there one platform that handles this repurposing power better than the other? And I have to say, as the platforms are right now, this is a clear tie. While Riverside's Magic Clips features are much quicker and auto-populated and already there for you, and definitely more intuitive than the clips that you can make in Descript, Descript's AI and maybe analysis of the script might find better clips. It might be capable of finding a little bit higher quality clips. I also really love how in Descript you can make multiple compositions, and that whole workflow can be really great because you can essentially copy little chunks for consideration and build your own highlight reels, so to speak, in compositions. In fact, I would really say that Descript would have scored the knockout for this one if it wasn't for how easy and intuitive and cool it is that Riverside automatically creates these magic clips for you without you asking. Once you're done recording, you pop back into your dashboard and there's this made for you section and it has all of these cool clips made for you already. Then you just click to edit and you can add images, you can add captions, you could add all sorts of cool stuff. Also, I used to think that Descript would win here big time in its captions capabilities, but now I found that they were both very even in that regard too. Very similar styles and different choices. Where Descript might win, that's pretty cool, is you also have the option of using audiograms, which wasn't something I was able to easily find at all in Riverside. However, audiograms and seeing the audio illustrated with your clip seems to be something that might not be as popular nowadays as it was, say, a few years back.
You're so 2022.
So, when it comes to repurposing power, round 5, ding, ding, ding.
It's a draw.
And finally, round 6, exports and workflow integration. Now here, this would be a tie perhaps for the creator, but when it comes to our clients, Riverside is always our choice when it comes to workflow, file management, as I said, and sharing their files with our editors. So if you are not gonna edit your own podcast at all, and you actually wanna work with an editor, then Riverside would be the definite winner in that case. However, if you're just a creator gonna be editing your own shows, then when it comes to exports and workflow integrations, you can export the files themselves locally at high quality on your computer so you can upload them to YouTube and Spotify and get the vertical clips and share them to your phone and put them on all the social media platforms, equally as easy on both platforms. You can also do timeline exports as well as transcript exports very easily and very intuitively in an equal way on both platforms. So round 6, another tie. Woo! Okay, here we are at the end of the fight. Now, before I give you my final verdict, and we add up the rounds and I can share PSS Creative Media's winner with you, which would you prefer to use? I'd love to hear your comments and your opinion right here below. I will respond to every comment. But after 6 rounds of a tough fight, Riverside and Descript head-to-head, if I had to only choose one, and if the real criteria here, the real consideration was either one of these platforms the true all-in-one go-to solution for content creators, Riverside is the obvious winner. Your guests can also connect with you remotely on Riverside using their smartphone, which is not something that Descript supports. In fact, you can also record yourself directly into Riverside on a smartphone as well, which makes portable recording and every other content creation need that you may have as you continue with this amazing content creation journey. Riverside's got you covered. This was not an easy fight for me. They're both great technologies, but as I mentioned, we have a responsibility to you and to our clients to choose the true best all-around solution by rigorous testing and all of our experience over the last 7 years here as podcast consultants. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Riverside sponsored this video for you, and they also provided you with a coupon code to save 15% on the Pro plan. Just type in PSS at checkout in the coupon code and you will save 15%. You will find the link in the description where you're watching, or go to pss.media/Riverside and remember to type in PSS at checkout for 15% off. If you are someone who needs that extra help, that high-level consulting, you can reach out to us by going to pss.media, and Veronica and I can help you set up your studio professionally and either train your team in professional editing and content distribution, or we can even handle the editing and content distribution for you. And if you're ready to really unpack and see the true power of Riverside, stay tuned, because in the next video, I'm gonna unpack and really look under the hood with Riverside and teach you some of my all-time favorite editing techniques, and you're about to level up. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Keep coming back every week. PSS Creative Media is your true podcasting, video podcasting resource here on YouTube.